What's up, Dragon Brood? How's it going? And actually, I just realized y'all are probably seeing me in the same shirt for like the fourth Deck Tech video in a row. Please be aware I am showering during isolation. I just filmed these all at the same time to save myself trouble because I'm making a lot of decks and I'm prepping stuff so I can participate in the streamer early access event that Wizards of the Coast is putting on and has so kindly invited me to on April 15th. So I need a deck list, so I figured why not just share them with the public since I'm already putting them together anyway. And today we're going to talk about Mardu humans. I already like the idea of humans deck lists, and the Knights decks are actually very close to being humans decks already. And this set provided a few things to give humans a boost. So overall, all those things kind of coming together, I was like, well, I sort of like these other decks already, so why not put this together? But while I prep the rest of the video, why don't you please click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel so you get notifications anytime I have other stuff coming up. So while you do that, I'll do my thing. As usual, I want to say we have the deck list up front on the front half of the video. The back half, we do actually have some strategy around playing the deck, which will save you some time learning the tips and tricks to make life a little bit easier when you're learning the deck. So please be sure to watch through the end of the video to get those extra tips. Anyway, let's get into the deck list. We have Venerable Knight. This is a card I actually don't like that much, but it actually fits perfectly in the deck. It's a 2/1, it's a human. When it dies, you get to put a counter on something else. It actually does a good bit of work. Giant Killer. It's possible this list might end up needing an additional Giant Killer. I think one thing people forget about the Giant Killer is that it's actually a human. I know for whatever reason, I just picture it being something else. But it does actually fit in here. It's a 1/2, and it does a lot of different little things for the deck. So definitely consider playing an additional one of those if you have something else you want to remove. Fervent Champs, obviously, it's a human, it's a knight, it gets a bonus from each other. It's just fast. It's a great card. Dire Tactics. This is one of the new cards that we decided to add to the list. Probably the best all-around kill card that this deck could play, considering that all your creatures are humans. So you're never going to be without a human, so it's basically 2 mana exile target creature. It's not going to get much better than that. Worthy Knight lets us pile up even more humans, which we love, and the majority of the creatures are actually going to be knights. So yeah, why not? Let's dig in on it. Stormfish Crusader. This is one of my favorite cards anyway whenever I was playing the Rakdos Knights list. So I was glad I could find another spot for this type of card. And it also is both a knight and a human, so it gets benefits from everything we're going to be trying to do with this list. And then Inspiring Veteran. And I think this is where you're going to see humans list diverge, because they're going to decide to play heavy just all humans and no knights, or you're just going to go the other way and just play a Mardu Knights deck, right? But the thing I like about this is another way to give all of your other knights, not necessarily all humans, an additional bonus. And that being said, it pumps most of the creatures in the deck, so I'm willing to take a chance and try it out to start with on this list. It itself is also a human and a knight, so it will get a bonus from the other cards pumping humans and knights as well. Playing a few Blacklands Paragons, again another human knight, kind of just acts as a removal card, but the bigger thing is, more often than not, what I noticed from playing the Rakdos list is that you play it as a flash creature most often, but it does fit the list perfectly. Unbreakable Formations, just another way to protect yourselves in the deck. 1 Judith, just because it gives you an extra bonus and some extra damage. And then the new General Kudro, that pumps all other humans and has some other cool abilities we can get to in a little bit. And then a couple copies of Sanctuary Lockdown. Again, pumping all your humans. The land base, I wasn't really sure which way we wanted to go here, because we do have a lot of creatures that are on the low end of the casting cost spectrum, so we didn't necessarily want to have a bunch of tap lands. What we decided is we're going to go ahead and go with 3 Triomes, mostly just so we can make sure we have access to all 3 colors, but it is a card that cycles late in the game. Since we're not playing temples, it's another way to kind of get through cards when we need to. And then we just went ahead and loaded up on all the different shock lands, and then played just a few basics. There's 1 basic swamp, 1 basic mountain, some random situations where maybe we can go search for them, which is nice, and then the rest we loaded up with just plains. Sideboard, again, we're kind of at the beginning of a format, so we don't know what everything's going to look like yet, so we're kind of taking some risk on what we're going to play. Light of Hope, again, there's just a lot of enchantments that we've seen, and this gives us a chance to take shots at them. But if they don't end up mattering, we can go ahead and get a +1/+1 counter. or gain some life. So it does give you a little bit of versatility, and we like the card for those reasons. Devout Decree, it's just useful and good against a lot of things. Agonizing Remorse, we're playing 3 of those just against a slower deck, so we have creature, or actually discard spells, sorry there. Moving into the removal, Relentless Act, or Heartless Act, is actually one of the better removals in this set. I would say, though, depending on how the format looks, this could be Noxious Grasp instead. So if there ends up being some decks that are still very green heavy, maybe you're still looking at a lot of Nissas potentially, this is something you could change to being a Noxious Grasp and feel pretty good about it. So for starters, let's talk about General Kudro. It's a 3-cost 3/3, gives all other humans +1/+1. And he has the ability that when a human enters the battlefield, you can exile a card from a graveyard. So this is really good at combating any of those sacrifice deck strategies that are trying to recur, like their Woe Striders or their Cats or whatever with their Oven Tricks. It can also remove stuff like Uros or Croxas, and that's pretty significant. So there's a few things happening there with this card, and then you can actually sacrifice 2 humans that also let you kill something power 4 or greater. And this works well when you're talking about something like Worthy Knight, where Worthy Knight is producing extra tokens as well that you can use. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with this deck that we're really going to appreciate, as you start putting different cards together. Fervent Champ, obviously having First Strike is huge, and you may want to lean on that since you have so many things that could pump them up. I mean, you're talking about having Sanctuary, Lockdown, you have the one Judith, you've got the Inspiring Veteran, you also have General Kudro. So like, there's a bunch of ways to pump your creatures. So you don't necessarily have to overload the board with this style of deck. If you get to 3 creatures, or maybe even 2 creatures and a Worthy Knight that's making extra tokens, then I may even stop at just 4 or 5 creatures on the table and just hold the others in your hand. There's no reason to overcommit. You don't really have a bunch of card draw spells, so that's something to be aware of. Or if you end up in your hand with an Unbreakable formation, really decide, should I play it to get the bonus and try to just end the game here? Or am I saving it because I believe the opponent has a sweeper? And remember, sweepers come in a lot of forms right now. I mean, we've got Ritualist, you've got the one that deals 4 damage, you have a 3 damage sweeper, you've got Shadow the Sky. So like, there's a bunch of ways that your opponent can be coming to remove your creatures. And you don't necessarily have a lot of high toughness until you get 2 or 3 different creature bonuses in play. So until that point, you do need to be a little wary and aware of that. One of the other things too, and I touched on this just briefly with Blacklands Paragon, is a lot of people are very quick to use it as a removal card, which isn't necessarily bad, but you really need to decide how badly you need to do so. I mean, can you win the race just playing it as an additional 3 power attacker? Or in this case, it may be a 4 or 5 power attacker, right? So your opponent may attack you not thinking about the fact that you're going to have this other 5 damage or so on your turn, right? So that's something to think about. The other is I've often saved it in my hand and just use that as the card to keep the train rolling post board sweeper, right? Let's say I don't have an Unbreakable formation. So I play 2 or 3 creatures out, and then I just leave 2 mana up. So if my opponent does sweep the board, cool, end of their turn, I play a 3 power creature, and then maybe, if I'm lucky, I draw a Kudro or already have it in hand, or maybe even one of the Inspiring Veterans. So now I'm attacking with a 4 or 5 power creature to keep that pressure up, because that's really how you're going to win those games against those mid-range and slower decks. It's about just punching through, keeping the damage going. And remember too, in situations early on, you may want to decide, should I play Fervent Champ turn 1, should I not, versus playing something else. More often than not, I say play something else and play Fervent Champ on turn 2, because that's going to amount to more damage on turns 2, 3, and 4. But if all you have is Fervent Champ, sure. Also think about that in playing around Teferis, because a lot of times they play Teferi on 3, they're going to bounce something, especially if they're on the play, and then you're going to have a haste creature to be able to attack Teferi with again. So there's a few different things happening here, but the deck overall is very solid. I also would say don't underestimate something like Stormfish Crusader. That extra damage a turn does add up. I mean, sometimes just getting 3 or 4 damage is huge. It's also reloading your hand to let you do other things. And I will say from experience, don't forget that you do sometimes need to kill a Narset, because so you could take advantage of that extra card every turn. It's something that you can kind of look at and go, oh, it's Narset. I don't have anything that lets me draw cards. And then you draw that and you're like, oh yeah, I don't get my bonus card. So just think about that a little bit too. Also look at using the one Judas sometimes when you have it as protection, because if your opponent does block, it's a way for you to kind of kill an extra thing because you get an extra point of damage, or your opponent can block some things and you can still toss that damage onto a planeswalker. So lots of little stuff happening in the deck, lots of little synergies between different cards that's really nice. But yeah, I think it's something, again, just be patient. Don't just spew your hand onto the table. You know, this deck has the ability to make several 3 and 4 power attackers very easily. So there's no point, I mean, I won't say no point, but there's not necessarily always a reason to lay out 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures. It's just take your time, leave yourself some backup, and if you can, take advantage of the Worthy Knight, because now, one of the things we ran into previously is you could only pump other knights. Well, now you have multiple things that can pump humans, and that really changes the game a little bit on how valuable those little new human tokens are. But I think that's going to do it for me. Again, don't forget that the Streamer Early Access event for Ikoria is coming up on April 15th, in which I'll be participating. You can follow me again over at twitch.tv/PowrDragn. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. At the very least, if you like these types of videos, hit the like button and help us out with this whole fancy YouTube algorithm stuff. And keep an eye on the channel, because while we're in isolation, I'm going to be putting out content every single day for you. That's all I got for now. We'll check you out next time.